Hello there. Yes, TevsTV is back for episode 2, only 11 months after the last one. Oh, I so do enjoy waiting a year in between review productions. So, you might remember my last video being the Eurovision Song Contest 2010, Part 1. But what about Part 2? There is going to be a Part 2, right? Well, if I post this picture up, will you be able to guess my answer to that question? Yeah. Of course, quite ironically, Duke Nukem Forever is actually getting a release now. But my second Eurovision review? Well, my copy of the 2010 Eurovision Song Contest is currently lost to time, and because it's the damn Eurovision Song Contest, I probably want to keep it that way. So instead, what will this video be about? Well, I've got just under a year worth of British TV to cover in 15 minutes. All in all, I probably better get going. Now, I posted my first video in early June. So what else happened that month? Well, we had the election interviews, which showed a fair coverage for all the available parties of the election, where they got to politely share their policies to the nation. By which, of course, I mean that the three major parties that it was already decided most people were going to vote for got together in three big flashy studios and just really had a good old bitch at each other. Hooray. Nick Clegg also went through the only 5 minutes of his life where he was actually popular with the British public, but now probably thinks that popularity was all some bizarre daydream he had. Then July came around and gave us the FIFA World Cup, a football competition where all of the people from all around the world came together. Arnold Schwarzenegger had tea, and that's how I saved Christmas. So now we come to August, where we had the final episodes of two famous TV shows. Firstly, the BBC sitcom Last of the Summer Wine, meaning that the show is finally as dead as the people who've been starring in it for the past 10 years. An ITV cop show, The Bill. Check please. But the show stopping didn't stop there, as in September we ended up with even more TV shows being cancelled and moving to the great production office in the sky. First of all, we had the final episode of GMTV. That show that you never watched because it was just on too early in the morning. Heartbeat finally died. Oh, the irony. And we got the final ever series of Big Brother. It's a celebration. Of course, all of that was made up for by the fact that we got a brand new early morning show called Daybreak, starring Adrian Charles and Christine Blakely. There. Is that a good enough review of that show for you? Now on to October, and Sky 3D was released, to the joys of pretty much absolutely no one. And really, after that, nothing else really happened in terms of big stories for British TV. Really, the second half of 2010 was just a bunch of TV shows being cancelled, and that was pretty much it. But looking at 2010 overall, what was good though? Well, we had Matt Smith's first season as the Doctor, which aired on BBC One, and was so good that Matt Smith is now my favourite Doctor, and my Amy Pond poster in my bedroom is now stained beyond repair. Because I was watching Time of the Angels right next to it while holding a cup of tea, and a shock scare caused me to spill tea all over the poster. and also because I kept ejaculating on it. Also from the makers of Doctor Who, or at least one maker from Doctor Who and his friend, Sherlock came onto our screens and managed to be more Doctor Who than Doctor Who was at times. It was also one of the single best things ever. In the world of comedy, mongrels appeared and mixed puppets, bad language, sex jokes, and a surprisingly sophisticated sense of humour in places. You know, obviously all the places that didn't have the bad language and the sex jokes, to really make it best comedy of the year for me. Special mention also goes to Paul Merton's Weird and Wonderful World of Early Cinema, a fascinating documentary into, you know, the weird and wonderful world of early cinema. I like shows that tell you exactly what they are. So, as we move into the bright new flashy 2011, the new year started with a big fun-filled bang, didn't it? Of course it didn't. Firstly, two Natic and Action stations stopped broadcasting on CITV, therefore reducing ITV's children's output from the insignificant to the downright mythical. Elsewhere, a controversial cot death storyline in EastEnders resulted in thousands of complaints and Samantha Womack leaving the show altogether. On Sky Sports, reporter Andy Gray made a sexist comment to fellow presenter Richard Keys, thus causing a giant media outrage that caused the first one to be fired and the second one to resign. And, given how well the month was going so far, they also probably produced a TV show where they fed pregnant goats to terminally ill children. Happy New Year! February comes around, and all the channels get messed up to bloody hell. Sky 3 is told to fuck off to Freeview, Sky 2 is secretly whacked around the back of the docks, and we get two new channels added to the catalogue of Sky channels. Firstly, we have Sky Living, which is actually just Living TV under a new name and channel number, and we get Sky Atlantic, which is now basically the British version of HBO in all but name. We do get a lot of new dramas coming along with the changes though. We had the frankly brilliant Boardwalk Empire, which was awesome because it had Steve Buscemi, with his surprisingly hard to pronounce surname, starring in it, and this guy's just awesome on toast. We also got Mad Dogs, which just seemed to feature a cast made out of Doctor Who and Life on Mars veterans. Maybe they all wanted a big end of Life on Mars party, and that was the only way they could get the production company to pay for it. I don't know. Also joining the party, we had Bedlam, a British horror series that managed to completely break any sense of realism that it could have had in the first 10 minutes by featuring a scene of Will Young getting off with a girl. Well, at least they're above typecasting on these channels. So in March, we had Frankenstein's Wedding, live in Leeds, which turned out to be a rather love it or hate it affair. For me personally, yeah, it was okay. It just really seemed like a bit of a missed opportunity for me, how it never actually felt like any of it needed to be live at all. And really at some point the live audience completely ruined the atmosphere that this thing was going for. For example, there was one set of a small scientist laboratory which had been set up inside of a glass box, which a section of the audience were then plonked in front of. Now, of course, not much of this episode took place within a glass box, and so this section of the audience were left with nothing more than just an empty glass box to look at for, a good couple of hours. As you could think, this would probably get a bit boring. So whenever anything did happen in the box, whenever anyone did move into the box, they got excited because hooray, something's finally fucking happening. We got tickets, we went over to see a live show, got stuck in front of a clear plastic box for an hour. Hooray, so we can actually, do something. And so they cheered.
Down corridors, through automatic doors. Got to get to you. Got to see this through. First night of your life.
The only problem? Most of this story's most dramatic and heart-rending scenes actually happened within this glass box. So, the scene where Frankenstein goes into the glass box to find that his bride has been murdered and that he is once more destined to be forever alone and unhappy for the rest of his days. Yeah, the audience were fucking cheering during it. And so we move into April, which is actually the month we're in now. So it seems a bit pointless recapping what happened a week ago and what I'm actually likely to review next week. In vague news, Britain's Got Talent has restarted, which is great because I fucking hate that show. And while I'm on the subject, a few notes on these types of shows. I will review these types of shows, things like X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, obviously, Eurovision, etc., etc. But the way I'm going to work, I'm only going to review the series grand finals. It just seems to make most sense to do it that way for me. And it will do for you if you think about it, but I'm not going to explain myself. So, that was the year that I missed reviewing. Reviewed in an entire 15 minutes, or maybe just under it. I don't know, I haven't edited it all yet. So I actually don't know how long this is going to last. Anyway, come and join me next week as we look at some more shows that only happened a few days ago, as opposed to a few bloody months. So, what is going to be my next review? Well, I'll give you a clue. Haha, oh baby, we're back. And actually working to some sort of schedule this time. Thanks for watching. I've been TevsTV, and you've been watching, you've been an audience. Goodbye.